We are looking at potential catastrophic events here. These are sort of projects that can at least start to help to make a difference. There's absolutely no urgency here. It's pathetic.
It's 250 feet tall and weighs in at about 60 tons. There's one ugly skyline, not to mention a perilous flight path for birds.
When I see them on the landscape, I think it's a good idea.
We're ruining the earth.
In this documentary, we will be discussing the pros and cons of wind farms, particularly in Michigan, but also in general. Throughout the movie, you should consider these main topics: geography, environment, and economic efficiency. What sort of geography is required for an optimal wind farm, and how is Michigan suitable for this? What damage can wind farms bring to the environment? What makes gas and nuclear plants more efficient than wind farms, but less clean? In an ever-changing energy market, these are all serious questions that must be answered for the success of clean energy. Geography plays an important role in deciding where to build a wind farm. The output of energy from a wind farm is obviously dependent on how much wind is in the location. Due to high, consistent wind, ranging from about 17 to 20 miles per hour, from great bodies of water, Michigan's Great Lakes shoreline provides an excellent geographic location for wind farming.
When we went to the wind farm in, it was around Lafayette, whatever, the first thing I thought of, it made me think of iRobot, and I think the fact we were listening to trance music as we drove up helped. But it was really creepy, and it really took away from the rolling landscape that could have been there, and the green, and the, I don't know, he just had these big robotic-like fan things spinning around on the countryside. Not cute, no.
Although it is apparent that Michigan possesses a great geographical location for wind farming, there are a few concerns about building them in these locations. The biggest concern is the sheer size of these wind farms. Wind farms require between 10 and 80 acres per generated megawatt, which is 30 to more than 200 times more space than needed for gas plants. Often these wind farms litter the countryside or otherwise disturb great natural views, causing some anger among locals. Many believe that no damage can be done by erecting wind farms, as they are eco-friendly and environmental. Wind farms require no fuel to generate power, meaning there is absolutely no pollution and no invasion of environment.
Windmills produce zero air emissions, so therefore it's very clean energy, and I'm all for that.
On the other hand, studies have proved that wind farms have been killing thousands of birds, including endangered ones. Some wind farms are facing federal lawsuits over the killing of endangered species. How many dead birds equal a dead fish equal an oil spill? Although the slaying of birds is often not held as important in comparison to our energy crisis, it cannot be said that wind farms are eco-friendly knowing that they are in an avian minefield. The manufacturing of steel and transportation of parts is also typically not figured into this eco-friendly equation. Are these wind farms saving more emissions than they create being manufactured? The Federal Department of Energy has said that Michigan is in the top 5 states for wind power generation potential, and in the top 4 states for wind manufacturing jobs potential, with the potential to create over 30,000 jobs by 2030. Michigan's advanced manufacturing and engineering expertise is a perfect fit for the needs of the growing wind industry. The clean energy business Next Energy estimates that Michigan is already home to over 100 wind energy companies, and 1,000 more, auto suppliers and others, could branch into supplying the wind manufacturing industry.
Nuclear energy is a lot cleaner and more efficient than wind farms. Wind farms, you have to have so many of those turbine things, and they don't power enough energy to run hardly anything, where a nuclear plant, on the other hand, you only need one, and it will power a town or whatever for a really long period of time. The only problem with nuclear energy is that I think the plants only last like 10 years or something before they have to be pretty much demolished and rebuilt, I think. So, but they're more efficient than wind energy.
Although it is true that Michigan has great potential to invest in the clean energy market, many leading wind power providers have encountered financial difficulty. That is because wind power's high upfront capital costs and a radical opportunity to convert wind to electricity, referred to as a low capacity factor, more than cancel out the fact that there is no energy cost for naturally blowing wind. In California, for instance, where some 30% of the world's capacity and more than 90% of the U.S. wind capacity is located, wind power operated at only 23% realized average capacity in 1994. Gas and nuclear plants produce power around the clock. Wind does not blow around the clock to generate electricity.
Another thing about wind energy is that it depends on the weather. It's not always going to be a windy day to power the turbines. So, whereas nuclear and other forms of energy are more consistent.
Clearly, there is a great divide in the path to clean energy. What is the best, most efficient way to produce it? Wind farming is not the only idea out there. Solar farms, geothermal, and bioenergy are among other forms of clean energy. However, all of these solutions present similar problems to wind farms. Lack of efficiency, space consumption, and environmental harm are still the major problems with energy production. As of now, there is a clear reason why nuclear and gas energy are prominent in the world. They get the job done. Although these forms of energy are not good for the earth and nature, they are the most efficient forms of energy production in existence. Even though wind farming, solar farming, and other forms of clean energy are not yet perfected, they are all worth researching further in order to move the world toward a cleaner earth.